or 2019, and I was taking like CBD THC gummies, and I started like cutting out King Tut's head on my iPad, and
Okay.
and uh, and then I was like, man, what if I just kind of started placing that around itself into like fractals, and I just kind of kept doing it and wasn't making anything and then I was listening to Spangle, and they've got this weird like Tibetan music, and it was like as I was getting higher, it was like Om, and I was like, I started just feeling like I was watching it happen, and then I got to like one full circle, and then I just kind of started like copying and pasting it and just kind of fitting it like puzzle pieces. And
There you
then
go.
as I was staring at it more, I was like, man, I remember I just like I think I was like, because I'm weird, like I also had like a like 7 hour long video of like a fireplace playing, just crackling fire, because sometimes I'll do that if I'm just like really into it. I'll just put it on like that kind of like rainstorm. And I was thinking of like a bed of coals, you know, when you like look at like at a bonfire or something, it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
light is like moving on the coals, but the coals themselves aren't changing. It kind of all flows. Well, I was like, fuck, what if I made these look like a bed of coals? And so the original image is like an 8K resolution like wallpaper, but I've had it the image for like a year and a half. And
No,
then
that's pretty
last
sweet.
yeah, thanks. Last week I was like, it's time for this to go on a hoodie. Just
There
made
you
it,
go.
threw it on, and so yeah, that's this weird. I just walked downstairs and my mom looked at me and was, "What's that?" I was like, it's a long story. It's a sweatshirt, but yeah. So but because I'm a moron and I can't go one podcast without talking about myself for a couple minutes, how about you guys introduce yourself?
Sure. All right, Mike. All right. I am Mike McCarthy, one of the members of At the Gates Paranormal, based here in Buffalo, New York.
And I'm Mike's brother, Steve, and another founding member of At the Gates Paranormal and author too for some paranormal blogs.
And so, ghosts are fucking real.
Oh, yeah.
In my opinion, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
And there's no structure. There's no schedule to this podcast. There's no you just chime in whenever you want about whatever. We clearly just talked about pharaohs for a minute. Is one thing I've always thought about it is, and it's the analogy I bring up a lot, is like if you went to like pre Joseph Lister times, right? Germ theory. So you'd go to the doctor and you'd put the thing in the kid's mouth and, oh, all right, you know, you're sick, and then you wipe it off on your sleeve and go to the next kid and, all right, you're sick, and then everyone would get sick, and it would just be like, well, that's the way the cookie crumbles. And it's like as you're just spreading it to people. And
Right,
then
right.
germ theory, and it came with putting phenol on shit and like sanitizing it. Now we look back and we're like, how stupid were they? But at the time, if you had tried to explain to them, these people that, you know, electricity is still 50 years away, you tried to explain to them that there are microscopic beings in the trillions that are spreading disease, they would burn you at the stake. You're a witch. What the fuck are you talking about?
Right, right.
Very true.
I
Very
often
true.
think that sometimes we're going to be looking ahead or looking back in a century, 2 centuries. We're going to be like, man, those people must have been freaked out. They called these things ghosts. They said that they were haunted. Little did they know it was just, you know, whatever. Like, right?
Whatever. Right, right.
Do you think it's gonna be something like that? And this podcast is entirely speculation. You don't need to cite anything. I don't give a fuck. Like, just yeah. What do you think?
You know what's cool is like there have been ghost stories since there's been written language.
Yeah,
You know, it's been oral history all the way up through the ages. The Greeks had them. Everybody has them. You know, there's something going on.
yeah,
You know, there's something going on somewhere, and you're right. There could be some sort of advancement in the future. Actually, in my blog, The Paranormal Paradox, like I love like Stephen Hawking and like brief
sure,
history of the universe and things like that. Universe in a nutshell, and I try to kind of take our experiences and break them down one by one
yeah,
and see what we know so far about science and how it can kind of maybe be explained. Although I still think we're very far off.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's just,
Yeah,
no, I was just going to say because so much of how we think, like we're very practical scientific thinkers, and that's how our mind works. So for us to be in this kind of line of thinking and try and draw conclusions based on a physical world that is black and white,
yeah,
where there is such a gray area, and whether it's based on your religious beliefs or whether it's for us, I mean, it's a hobby.
yeah,
It's what we're interested in. It's what we're passionate about. we're not trying to change the world or change anybody's opinion about it, but it's just, the fact that Steve puts this in one of his blogs, it's really well, like, how can we recreate this experience, of finding a ghost, or, if we're in a haunted house and we feel something, to a non-believer, how do you get them to that point?
Yeah.
And maybe, maybe you're right, in 100 years down the line, maybe there is something that's, man, look at these guys. They're walking around with a camera and a EMF detector trying to talk to people. And, we just do this now. And it's,
but I mean, you are right, Tommy. I mean, ether, right? The concept
sure.
In the universe. I mean, that was something to fill a void, literally and figuratively speaking, because they couldn't explain how light traveled through space. If it was the concept of vacuums and all that stuff.
Right. Yeah.
So you're 100% right that right now we're just filling space.
Yeah, that was a big idea during Tesla's time, and then it kind of lost momentum, but it's kind of gaining momentum again. I've had him on twice now. Dr. Eben Alexander, the Harvard neurosurgeon that fell into a coma for a week in like 2008 or 10, and his book Proof of Heaven. And this guy he's a Harvard brain surgeon. I don't know how much more of a like I'm smart, title do you need, but like that's a guy and he's now been going into it for like 10 years. And
what was his name? I'm sorry.
Eben Alexander, Eben Alexander, and he wrote a book, Proof of Heaven, and I just had him on last week for his other book, Living in a Mindful Universe, or Living in a Conscious Universe. But it's the entire thing is him going into it, and this guy is, the most educated, well-spoken guy, and he's going into this whole thing, and he's trying to take it from, what we know through like traditional Eastern, mysticism. But he's trying to kind of take that Joseph Lister approach, and he's like, this could very well be quantum this, but he talks about the ether. And he's going into it, and he's like, this doesn't have to be like woo-woo. Like you can explain it. It doesn't make it any less real, right? He's like, you could just be think about like the radio. Like we don't think anything of it. Like right now, or think about you and I just talking right now.
Right now, yeah.
But imagine if you had stumbled across a laptop screen 150 years ago. Not only would you be like, what is this smooth surface? And then an image comes on, and there's a weird dude in a fucking Pharaoh shirt with the American flag and all the states. And I'll be like, the country's still...
Too many stars?
Yeah, I'll be like, the country's still here, but you must be warned against voter fraud. They'd be like, what the fuck is this? And I'd be like, the earth isn't flat. We're not the center of the universe. Germ theory, bitches. E = MC squared. They would flip the fuck out. But now we would look back and we'd be like, oh yeah, no, it was just Wi-Fi. But to them, it's like they'd run to the church and like get on their hands and knees, and they'd be like, Lord Jesus, please save me. I just saw a demon. Reality,
that's what it is, and that's what so much of it goes back to for a lot of people is that religious aspect and that faith.
Yeah.
In whatever culture, whatever religious background you have. I mean, it's just we were raised Catholic, but we're not practicing Catholics, but we tend to think the heaven and the hell model, and we just trying to fit all these puzzle pieces, whether it's the scientific part, whether it's what they did historically, or how they thought of the afterlife, or how different cultures view it. It's I think that's what makes this so interesting, and us to be able to have these kind of conversations where you can't point to somebody and say, oh, you don't believe in ghosts, you're wrong. It's I think that's kind of what lends itself to being such an interesting subject, is just there's no right or wrong.
Yeah and like all, I guess, great discoveries, even when a lot of people start to all agree with it, you still can't, again, you can't point to germs until there's a microscope. Like it just doesn't matter, right? You can't point to Pythagoras, measuring the pyramids and shit and using and determining the world isn't flat. Like, who are you gonna, you can get in a hot air balloon, and maybe if you go up high enough without dying from lack of oxygen, you might be like, oh yeah, it starts to curve. But there's no way, it's even that. It's like, imagine Leo Szilard coming over from Germany and being like, if you put enough uranium together, it's going to make a big explosion. Like, he originally did that, and FDR had him, like, leave his office. He was like, fuck out of here. He was like, just get out of here.
It's mind-blowing because you can't picture it.
Yeah.
You know?
And then finally he was friends with, who the fuck? He was friends with Einstein. And Einstein's like, no, this is actually crazy, and we need to do this because the Nazis are doing that. And paraphrasing, FDR was like, all right, let's fucking give this some big dick money. And one thing led to another, and Hiroshima and Nagasaki happened at the end. But
I know you said you were paraphrasing, but I think
that was verbatim. Yeah, that's what I thought it was. Yeah.
I saw it on Drunk History once.
Yes. Duncan Trussell on Drunk History doing Tesla. And he was like, fuck you, Edison. Fuck you. But so for y'all, what is the most compelling, I guess, thing you've experienced? What is for the person that doesn't believe? And again, so like all the uranium, it's like we can talk shit until finally July 16th, 1945, we fucking make an artificial sunrise. And everyone's like, oh, it's real. But until then, it's really, you just kind of have to look at the science or have faith or, What information, or not information, or just what experience, or what anything, anecdotal, whatever, would you say? Because I am on that. I graduated college in 2013. I was pre-med. I got into medical school and pharmacy school. I was scientific, like reductionism, materialism as it gets. But I am starting to lean more towards that. I think there's something else, and I don't know what it is, but I'm keeping an open mind, because to say that I know for sure that it doesn't exist is about as anti-scientific as I could ever be. So for y'all, what's the pitch? Like, it's just, yeah.
So we each got kind of like a defining experience that we go to when, like, because there's times when I'm like, am I wasting my time on this? And actually I was to that point. It was probably around 2015, 2016, where we gotten things, but it's always like, well, could there be another explanation that's natural and occurring that we already know about? And it wasn't until we went to Rolling Hills Asylum in East Bethany, New York, right by Batavia. And it's a former asylum. It was turned into a retirement home in the late 50s. And it was an antique mall in the 80s and 90s. And then it was abandoned for a little bit. Now it's like Ghost Hunter's Paradise,
right? I was about to say, that sounds like a perfect storm for haunting.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit.
So Rolling Hills has a lot of resident spirits, but one of them allegedly had gigantism. There was a real gentleman there that lived there. They checked the historical records. They show you the books and the ledgers. His name was Roy. They show you some of his furniture too, because it was just huge. So they look at him as like a protective spirit of the property. And we caught his voice once on like an EVP recorder, and it was pretty cool. But it was one night I was with my aunt and Mike here, and we were looking down the hallway on the third floor. They call it the shadow hallway because it's pitch black. There's no light. There's no power. I think the exit signs run on generators or whatever. And we're looking down it, and it looks like this person keeps peeking their head out of a doorway. And we all see it, and we're all like, oh, yeah, look at that. We go down there. There's nobody in the room, right? And we're like, oh, that was cool. That was cool. So we come back up maybe about 2 hours later. And there was a group doing a flashlight session. And Mike and my Aunt Cindy went and joined them. And I went further down the hallway. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go see if I could see this. Maybe my eyes were matrixing and we were, all of us, So I went down there. And of course, now I couldn't see anything. So I'm like, okay, yeah, well, I don't know. Maybe there was something to it. And at that time, there was a doorway right behind me. And I saw something out of my peripheral vision on this side. And it was huge. And it was black. And it whispered right in my ear right away. And it said, hey, you're Steve. And so I turned, actually, I thought it was him at first, like saying like, hey, Steve, let's go over here. I don't want to interrupt the group. But it wasn't. I turned on my light. There's nothing there. And I was like, I got the goosebumps, but my aunt got up right then and there. She's 40 feet away. She's like, what just came out of the room behind you? And I was like, what did you see? She's like, something just blocked you out of my view. I was looking at you. Something came out of the room, completely blocked you out of view until you turned around and turned on your flashlight.
Fuck that.
I was super excited, but the great thing about that story is we both saw it at the same time, and that's when I was like, you know what, undeniably 100% there's something going on. That was mine.
Mine actually, it's what got me started looking more into the paranormal. This was probably mid 2000s maybe. I had worked at a restaurant and I was a closing manager, and I just was shutting off all the lights and stuff, flipping the breakers, and I was facing the wall, turned around, and this was actually a restaurant that it was there for decades and decades, and there was always rumors that it was haunted, and they were like, oh yeah, an old lady died in the banquet room and now she's haunted, but nobody really had any proof, or just, it was an old wives' tale, whatever. So, there was always maybe a weird noise here or there, something, but nothing ever that would give us proof. So then when I was turning off all these lights, was facing the wall, turned around to leave, in front of me, there was a figure, maybe about, I don't know, 1.5 feet, 2 feet from my face, very long face, big open eye. They were black. They were just basically big, long holes, and it had its arms up. But from what I can remember, it wasn't solid, but it was see-through. It was almost like misty. And yeah. And it scared me enough to where I literally jumped back into the wall and like crashed against the wall that was behind me. And by the time I shook my head, I was like, what the hell was that? And came to, 2 seconds, whatever later, it was gone. And I literally ran out of there. And first thing I did was called my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife. And immediately she's just like, what's wrong? What's going on? Like she said, just in my voice, she never heard me like that. And until then, I never thought about paranormal anything. And I knew Steve, he had a good interest in it. And this is what really made me want to learn more about it and kind of led me down this path.
Sure. That's horrifying.
It was.
Steve, you seem a little interesting, like a little curious. The gigantic guy didn't seem maybe like evil. Yeah. He almost kind of seemed like he was just kind of like fucking around, like a wet willy. It's like, yo, what up? Like, what up? Like, nut tap. Mike, yours seems like it was a fucking demon from hell.
Did
I twist that up, Mike, Steve? Did I twist that up, Steve?
I'm Mike.
Okay, I'm just making sure I got it right. Sorry.
Yeah, you had it. Yeah,
you right, okay. Right. Mike, yours seems like a demonic like wraith.
Yeah, whatever was there, and it actually led us to. That's where we did our first, I guess, quote, ghost hunt. Where
it was the night before Thanksgiving.
It was the night before Thanksgiving because this restaurant was only closed on Christmas and Thanksgiving, so. We were able to shut off all of the power, all of the freezers and stuff with that, and just for a few hours, didn't have to worry about anything, just so we had no interference in sounds. And we didn't really find anything then. It was our first time ever trying to do that. And but after that, there was a good amount of activity that people had a tough time explaining, whether it was somebody would get there to clean up at like 3 a.m. They came in to clean up from the night before. And I remember the one guy, he told us he was putting his bike away in the basement and he felt somebody right behind him so much that he actually turned around and swung because he assumed somebody followed him in there. It's 3 a.m.
Yeah,
nobody else is there. Sure. So it was something that was that real that made him think that somebody was going to attack him. And it was, we would hear voices. There was another
voices running up the stairs or something.
Heard voices running up the stairs. Actually, one real interesting thing. So, there's plates in a restaurant. There's plates. There was a giant stack of plates and you heard, it just sounded like it fell right off of a table, a stack of 20, 30 plates, and you could hear it. And it was as loud as hell. And our one other member, Jay, he'll talk about this. And so he was downstairs by himself. So he goes up and he's like, what the hell's going on? And there was no broken plates anywhere, just nothing. The restaurant doesn't exist anymore. It's a parking lot. And but
it was weird. It was built like a split level house. And it was built before like any ADA stuff, any ADA requirements, because if you were in a wheelchair, you weren't getting up.
You weren't getting up,
dining room because it was about 10 steps to get up, and you had to go up these 10 steps to get in the front door. And it's a very strange building.
It was.
That's so. And this is just like I'm just thinking even now as I'm talking to you, like this is like you ever seen those memes on Black people Twitter where it's like on that subreddit where it's like black people hear a noise and they'd be like, fuck this, I'm getting the fuck out of here. White people hear it and they're like, well, let's go downstairs and check it out. It's like,
and you know what? It's exactly that.
It's true. Why do you guys do it? Why am I talking to you? We're all like, what's going on? Like,
and it's funny because, you know, people ask if I'm telling about an experience or something, and people will be they'll say, I'd be scared as hell. How do you not run out of there? And, you know, for us, it's an adrenaline rush. And I think part of it too is wanting to get something like, like a person, like the Holy Grail. The Holy Grail, which is like a full body apparition in front of you. And it's, you know, we want to find that and keep going. You know, we have fun going on investigations. And, you know, I always say, if it's a boring night, worst case scenario is the, you know, 4 or 5 friends got to hang out and bullshit with each other for 6 hours or whatever. And so, I mean, it's not like it ends up being a bad night.
There's nights where we go places and nothing happens.
Sure.
Nothing.
But it's
like I said, we sit there and we bust each other's chops. But then there's some nights where it's like, this can't be real. There can't be this much stuff happening. You know, it's just...
Yeah. Well, it's, I guess to give it credence, like, so in 2014, I lost my oldest sibling to suicide. But at the time, I was down, that was up here in Maryland. At the time, I was visiting my girlfriend at the time in Georgia, and I went down there, and it took me like 3 years before I ever told this story to like my parents, and then eventually like my doctor, and then now I like tell it more frequently on the podcast, and sort of just like I say more, just sort of, it's like it bothers me less, and now it doesn't bother me at all. But and mind you, this is like as someone that was raised like Roman Catholic, like private Catholic school, but became like an atheist at like 15, 16, and was for like probably 10 years. But at the time, the night before, my girlfriend was sleeping with her head on my chest, and she woke up because my heart was beating so hard, and so she woke me up, and just like, you're having a nightmare. And I remember waking, and I never said anything, but the dream I was having was like watching my older brother just basically prepare to do the act, and like get ready to. But I later found out that, well, obviously it happened the next day, which, if that's not weird as fuck, but I later found out just through kind of coordinate, looking at each other's texts, what was the last thing you said to him, it turns out that I was like watching it in real time while dreaming 599 miles south, which creeped me the fuck out. Also, I have on a guy a lot, Dale Comstock, who is the youngest ever guy in Delta Force, just like a total badass, right? But he's as like clean-cut American as you get, never smoked pot, it's just like he was in Delta Force at 23, worked for the CIA. Like, this dude's fucking James Bond. But he talks about like the weird experiences he has. And like, I point to that one because it's not, it's not all of us sitting here talking about ghosts. It's not some long-haired new age girl trying to sell you energy crystals, right? It's Dale Comstock, who is fucking like a clean cut. This guy was like, he would have fit in with like World War II vets. Like, he's as clean, no bullshit as you get. There's no praying your bullet hits. There's nothing but ballistics and aiming. Like, this guy is this guy is a fucking Iceman. But he came on, I think, episode 78. But he came on and talked about it. And he was like, yeah, not only that, he's like, not only like that, but like, he's like, we were actually like taught to like visualize and experience like ahead of time, like success and but all this stuff that you wouldn't expect. And he talks about kind of the same thing on other sides of the world when he was doing like covert missions. He would have like hadn't talked to his dad in a year, but was like, I got to find like the secure satellite phone. I got to call home and they can link me. And they'd be like, why? I'd be like, I have to talk to and it turns out he had a heart attack. And it's like, weird shit like that. And I always point to Dale, not because his experiences are necessarily unique or stunning so much as like, that's a guy that doesn't bullshit, right?
Right.
That is a
he has no reason to make up a story like
not
that.
Only that, he
position to it.
Not only that, he is just like, he's a person that has been just beaten out of. You don't make it to Delta Force if you're like, hey, full moon tonight, guys. They're like, fuck out of here. Like,
Mercury's in retrograde.
Yeah, exactly. Like, wow, well, I looked at my astrology chart and it's like, no, are you going to put this knife in your mouth and go crawl through 100 yards of mud and kill that guy? It's like, yes. Mercury's in retrograde. No, it's, do we have air support or not? Like, but that guy, so what I'm getting to is like all these experiences. And again, myself, like, super scientific nerd. All these things were Dr. Eben Alexander, the last people to point to like supernatural. Eventually, you kind of get to a point where you're like, all right, well, I don't know, like in it, and I just know what I saw. So what you guys are talking about is like the thrill. I mean, it kind of sounds like, going exploring back before we had the whole world mapped out. Terrifying, you might die, but it's like, yo, we might discover a new piece of land. Like, make it eaten alive by indigenous people. But right?
And I think that's and number one. I wanted to say I'm sorry to hear about the loss of your brother.
Oh, I appreciate it, man. Yeah, it's been 6 years. It's it's good now. It's good.
And I think that one of the biggest things that people who say that ghosts aren't real, the point to is that you cannot replicate the evidence, right? That people get on shows like Ghost Adventures, all that stuff. You can't replicate it in a laboratory setting. Right. That's the biggest thing that people say, because all other things you can. One of the analogies I like to use is a storm chaser, like tornadoes. Right.
Yeah.
We know now how to predict them fairly accurately. Right. We know when storm systems are to that point and things are pointing in the direction that a tornado is going to form. We have warning systems, and it's all based on trends and analysis of 200, 300 years of people probably studying this throughout the Midwest. And it's the same thing with us, right? There's got to be trends. There's got to be certain things and certain criteria that's needed for the observable phenomenon of the paranormal to be observed in our reality.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're chasing after. And we were talking about thrills, and I think some people, when they hear like some ghost groups say like, "Oh, we're chasing," we get a thrill out of it. The thrill doesn't come from being like scared about like a ghost. The thrill, like you hit it right on the head. It's about going after what we've been seeking, that white whale, whatever it is, and getting closer to it, getting closer to it, getting closer to it.
Yeah. And it's, you're shedding light on like the pitch black, right? You're fucking stepping onto the moon. It's like, it's fucking terrifying, but it's at the same time, it's like, you got to know. Like, you can't not know, right? It's
right, and it's that unknown too. That like every time we go out, like it could very well, like, are we going to do something mistakenly and conjure up something demonic, and our lives are altered going forward? And it's just that there's always it's never a dull moment where we're not thinking about okay, we try and be respectful wherever we go, and just like I said before, we're amateurs. We do this for fun. It's just a group of us, friends, hanging out. So it's, just basically it's the thrill of it is what it comes down to. I think for me, it's that simple.
Tommy, I'll send you the link to my blogs, because actually I think it's like so like into what we're talking about right now. I just I want to read kind of some of the core tenets. It's like a quick paragraph about what I think are like hard truths about the paranormal reality. Number one, ghosts aren't energy. They're beings existing in an adjacent reality and require energy just as we do to interact with those in our reality. So I almost look at it like two circles, right? Here's the paranormal reality, here's our reality, right? And that small little overlap is where Mike sees the things in the kitchen. I see the thing right behind me. The contact with someone that might have passed away recently in that little area between dreaming and being awake. Like that little sliver, I think is where we meet and where we're able to observe those things. There are different levels of paranormal interactions that require different levels of energy. There are defined laws of the paranormal reality that must be adhered to by everything in it, just like our reality. The paranormal events we witness are a sliver of an overlap between our reality and the paranormal reality. And number 5, there are certain environmental conditions that must be met for either spirits from the paranormal reality or us in our reality to interact with that observable phenomenon.
So there's a kind of friction almost, like between worlds. It's kind of sparking, right?
So you were talking about building blocks earlier, and it's funny because I was just reading about, I always pronounce it wrong. Quarks. The subatomic particles that make up electrons.
The dog from Honey, I Shrunk the Kid.
Yes, actually, yes.
The what?
The movie Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. That was the dog's name.
Oh, really? It was Quark? I don't know that. But Quarks. Yeah.
But so there's got to be some sort of building block rules, things that apply to this paranormal reality, the way ours has things, but completely different. You know, and Stephen Hawking uses a fish in a bowl as a setting, to explain that a fish defining its universe from inside the bowl is going to have different laws of things that are applicable to it as to us outside of that fish bowl. Yeah. And I think that's kind of where my head heads to when we talk about how do you describe the paranormal.
Yeah, right. It's kind of like what was his name? David Foster Wallace, and he's like, how do you explain like that which is like outside our reality? And he was like, all right, well, one day 2 fish just graduated Fish High School, and they're like swimming along the sidewalk with their diplomas or whatever, about to go to a party or something, and like an older fish walks by, and he like looks at him and he smiles and he goes, "Morning, boys, how's the water?" And they both smile and nod and they keep swimming. Finally, one of them looks at the other and says, "What the hell is water?" But it's like, right? That's like, who's to say that's not what it is? Yeah, right?
Of the universe,
exactly, right? It's, that's like, who's to say that's not what it is? And again, who's to say it's not, it's not, woo, it's a ghost. It's like, they could have absolutely defined laws of physics. They could have nuclear forces. They could have all this shit. Just like Earth isn't the only planet that exists. They all obey physics, but you can have a super giant gas thing. You can have something made out of like liquid methane, but it's all fair game. Like, why can't that exist? Yeah.
No, you're exactly right.
So now I just, for my own just sort of like white person in me that like needs to know more, is like, do you have any fear of it being, and I'm a pussy, dude. I can't even, when I mention a scary movie, I mean like the 3-minute clip on YouTube I once watched like through a finger. But like, so I can't even say I've watched it. But like The Conjuring, I know they mention in one of it, they're like, it doesn't matter, basically it doesn't matter if you leave this home, like the spirit's latched onto you. Do you have that fear that you guys are going to go like fuck around and it might not be Gigantism guy that's just like, yo, what up? Like, and it might actually be this like demon that latches onto you and it's like, I'm just going to like destroy you?
Yes. Yeah. 100%.
That's a legitimate fear.
Yeah.
So I read, there's a great book, and obviously everyone knows Lorraine and I can't think of his name. The Warrens.
The original, The Conjuring. People, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So they wrote a book with an author called The Demonologist, and it's about some of their scariest cases involving demonic entities. And it's scary because, like, Edward, yeah, Lorraine and Ed, yeah. So, in a haunted house, right, you can get out of the house, right, when you're experiencing things and they're typical, like, haunting things. And this is actually something I dive into and plan on diving into more in my blog. Why is that? But with the demons, right, they latch onto people. They don't haunt places; they haunt people. And you can get out and go to a church and you're still in just as much trouble as you are in their house. And that's the scariest thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think they're like parasites. I don't like, people call them demons, like you said, like the germ thing. I think they're parasites from that paranormal reality that latch on and feed off of.
They live off you, yeah.
That we give,
Yeah. Man, one thing I talked to like my cousin about it is like, for better or worse, I love Alex Jones. I think he's hilarious. Sometimes he's right, and that's what's creepy. But me and my cousin were talking, and I was just kind of thinking, like, man, I loved watching him on Joe Rogan, episode 911. But he kind of, towards the end of it, I remember thinking, I was like, okay, he's finally fucking lost it. Like, deep state, like, okay, I can fuck with that. Like, globalist cabal, like, I can fuck with that, right? But then he was like, it's interdimensional aliens. And I was like, well, God damn it. Like, okay, I can't do that. But as it's been a couple years, and it might just be that I'm opening my mind more. It might just mean that I've been using conspiracies like a hard drug and I'm building up a tolerance. And now I need like harder and harder shit. I'm like, don't give me that JFK shit. I need the aliens. Like, right? I just like, give me the good stuff. But I've been thinking more like, just try to, was it Voltaire? Like the ability to the sign of intelligence is the ability to entertain an idea without believing it. So I've tried to, instead of shoot things down as that's stupid, like, why don't I try to like meet it on the playing field? And like, that's like Michael Jordan, or someone saying to Michael Jordan, like, he sucks at basketball, I'm not playing him. It's like, why don't you go play him one-on-one and show us that he sucks? And so I try to so to say all that, I try to entertain things now. Just like, why don't I try to like meet it on like an academic playing field? Some are simple. It's like, let's meet flat earth on an academic playing field. Someone tied a GoPro to some garlic bread in a balloon. went up, and it's like, all right, well, okay, check that one off. Okay, we got it. Earth's round. But with demons, the one thing I've been trying to like be the devil's advocate, and if I had to argue it, not that I believe it, but if I had to argue it, how would I argue it? Like if my life depended on it. And the only thing I could kind of think of is I love everything about the Cold War. The Cold War was just horrible but sexy. I've had a ton of authors that worked in the CIA at the time that, you know, in the shit. Dale was in Delta Force during the Cold War. And I always think about like Vietnam or Korea, Afghanistan with the Soviets in the 80s. Like, we know that proxy wars exist, right? Syria right now, we don't go toe-to-toe because if we did, there'd be nuclear war and everyone would be dead. So, like, America and China, America and Russia, like, we all fuck around in proxy wars, which is basically I put my hand up the ass of this group of people, you put your hand up the ass of that group of people, and we fight, you know, like puppets. We give
right.
And so let's just break it down into what is it. We have a battleground, and then we have technologically superior people that give them weapons to fight. So again, you come down and, hey, I know you're in Vietnam and you know you're a rice farmer, but like, hey, here's a thermal scope for your AK. They don't know what the fuck it is. They don't know where it comes from. But it's like, don't worry about it. Here it is. Go fight. The one thing I can't pull away from is, what if Earth is a proxy ground or a proxy war ground for technologically advanced species or beings that are so advanced that, kind of like the guy freaking out about, you know, my image popping up on a screen, and he's like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
Who's to say that they're not so advanced that we call them demons or we call them angels because they're ethereal and they're, you know, maybe morphing through walls, and we're like, man, these are, but in reality, it's like they've just got a bigger defense budget. I know that was a long rant, but that's what I'm trying to like.
Yeah.
No, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
I totally get that. Yeah.
Hold on, I think my buddy Paul's about to join us. You guys good to go for like another like half hour?
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
Paul.
Yeah.
What's going on? Paul, can you see everybody?
I can see everybody.
All right, Steve, Mike, introduce yourself to my buddy Paul. Paul, you're supposed to come here earlier. I'm a little upset.
I'm terribly sorry.
I am very...
I had a day from hell.
I'm sorry, man. Well, speaking of hell, we are talking about demons, so hop right on in.
Did you see I prepared with my background?
I did. And
I like it.
Well, so we're talking about demons and shit, and Paul originally sent me a photo the last time we spoke, right before the election, of a demon that someone took in like a haunted house. But that's what we're talking about with you guys, like seeing shit in your periphery or down the hall. Is there any way to like for sure capture it? Do these obey like optics? Can they be? I've been talking for like 10 minutes. I haven't let you guys say a fucking word. Sorry.
No, actually, this is actually what I hit on my first blog, and actually, we actually have a video on our YouTube channel of a shadow figure that we caught running in Iron Island Museum.
Fuck that.
And there's a clip on our YouTube thing, and we actually saw it with our own eyes about 2 years prior. We were in separate rooms. It ran down the hallway towards Mike and then into the room where I was, and at the same time we're like, did you just, oh my god, what have you just, you know? And so we talked about it, and then Mike and Greg were in one of the rooms and I was over at the command center, and Mike was filming. He must have not been looking at the LCD because he didn't even notice it, and I didn't notice it until months later. We're going through the footage, and what do we see? That black shadow running in the room, and it's the size of a child. That's what we saw like the first time, the height of a child. Mm-hmm. And at first I was like, okay, that's got to be Greg moving or something. So then I went through about an hour of footage of Greg getting up, what his shadow looked like. I dismissed everything that I could possibly dismiss. And that's what we were left with. Is at first I knew it was it because that's what we saw with our own eyes. But yeah, after we knocked everything out,
fuck that.
It was able to be filmed.
Fuck that. Yeah. Paul,
I would love to hear what you two dudes think of this photo that I have.
I was about to say, can you drop it? Can you drop it in the chat?
I can.
So he dropped it last time. Was he and I talking? I deleted it off my phone and I deleted it out of my text messages because I was like, I'm not letting this thing latch to me. But apparently, we're jumping back in.
Right back in with both feet. The background here is this: they felt something at the top of the stairs, took a photograph, saw nothing, but this is what was on the film.
Okay,
Okay, we got it open now. Oh wow.
You gotta zoom out a little bit, and then you can see the face.
Oh yeah, no, we could definitely see the face.
Yeah, for everybody watching, I have it pulled up on the screen, and as you zoom out, you can see eye, nose, mouth, and that is a fucking demon.
Yeah, that's the real thing, I think. That's why I wanted you guys to tell me what you thought.
Yeah.
So, and not to be, dismissive, because I try to be, I just try to approach things with an open mind, left and right. Are there any photos before and after where, nothing was there and then this was there?
Yeah.
Gotcha. And then this was the image that you guys got kind of in the middle of those photos?
Right. And this was taken at the bottom of the steps. The entity they felt was at the top of the steps. So when they snapped it, it's almost like whatever it was rushed the camera.
Right. What did they feel at that moment?
Definitely a wrongness. And there were all kinds of things going on, doors opening and closing, objects moving, writing appearing on the walls, things of that nature.
For Steve and Mike, for Steve and Mike, background on my buddy Paul. Paul's a lawyer that actually was instrumental in killing John Wayne Gacy.
Oh wow!
And, yeah, gotcha. So Paul fucks with real demons, and so that's why Paul's not just like ooh ghost. Like, when he brings it up, I'm like fuck.
Yeah, no, I mean it's when you get a little bit of context and background in it, it definitely makes the picture a bit clearer, and it's definitely a horrific image to see. It's not pleasant to look at.
No.
I've never seen a full-bodied apparition, but the thing you saw was very inhuman, but it had human features.
Yeah, and you know what? It's funny. I was given a story
Can you explain that one again to Paul? I'm going to go pee. Can you tell him that story again?
Yeah.
About the fucking... It's disgusting.
So I worked at a restaurant, and I was the night manager, and I was closing up shop. Everybody was gone, 11 o'clock or so at night, and I was facing the breakers, and I was turning them all off, and when I turned around, there was just this figure standing 1.5 2 feet right in front of me. And its face was extremely long. It had 2 eyes there was nothing in them. They were just big black holes. And it looked like arms that were up. And it was just, it startled me so much that I literally jumped back into the wall. That I turned around from. And as soon as I kind of shook my head and got myself together, it was gone. And I literally ran out of there. And, prior to that, people would joke around like, oh, this restaurant's haunted. And there was nothing that anybody definitively said. There was a rumor that an old lady died in the banquet room and now, her ghost haunts it. And it's the picture that you sent, like I'm looking at the shape of the face and how it's like wider at the top and gets thinner at the bottom. And it had a long open mouth. The only, when this happened, this probably was 15 years or so ago when it happened to me. But the only kind of difference I see between the two is maybe the eyes. Like the eyes I remember in my experience were a little bigger, but like honestly,
you definitely see the pupils.
You could see the pupils in your picture, but the shape and the open mouth and just where the eyes are and how it's not necessarily symmetric, that's very similar to my experience and what I remember was directly in front of my face. So I mean, it's bringing back, definitely. Something that I've experienced.
It makes you wonder too, like if Lon Chaney, because it's very Lon Chaney-esque.
It is.
Like if he had experienced things and that's helped him draw some of the things that he drew
his
out in his makeup.
Yeah.
Like because some of the stuff he did was so horrifying, and even to this day, yeah.
What it reminds me of the most is a 1929 silent film called The Man Who Laughs.
Man Who Laughs, yeah.
Man Who Laughs, yep.
Inspiration for the comic book villain, the Joker.
The Joker who left. The Batman.
Yes.
Who left. Actually, I got him right up here.
Oh, Paul, are you in your man cave?
There we go.
No. I have that in my man cave.
I was gonna say Paul's got a man cave, and I was realizing now I'm like, it looks a lot like y'all's. Like he's got all his Batman shit.
Yeah, it's not that different, really.
Yeah, it's
so. Paul, do you mind giving like a little bit of history about the building that this was in?
I don't know as much about that as I should. A friend of mine is a demonologist by the name of Carl Johnson. He was the first on the scene for the original of the Conjuring house. And he brought in the Warrens. And this was more active than the Conjuring house.
Wow.
And I'll have to connect you guys with him. He can tell you the whole story a lot better than I can. But one of our plans for next month is to go to Rhode Island and to actually spend some time in the Conjuring house,
Paul,
with Carl Johnson.
Why?
Oh,
Tommy, you going to?
No, I'm not. I'm staying here. I'm staying here in a. I have a sprinkler system of holy water that's going to create a sphere around me, and I'm going to sit in bed with a cross. But
There's no harm. You can bring all that stuff with you, Tom.
You know, that might be the way to go, though. Is like, or just get super. Do you guys when it's? Sorry, I'm just going off the wall. Paul, why? How are you guys doing that? Is it like a free place to go to? Is it not like private property?
It is a private home. Carl has maintained contact with the owners over the years, and he says it remains active. But it was not as active as the house that I showed you that picture from, and that's Carl's picture.
And where was it located?
In Rhode Island.
In Rhode Island, okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know,
I'll definitely get you guys connected with Carl. You guys could share some pretty fascinating stories.
No, I'd love to.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Do you guys have a? I'm sorry, I should have known more. Do you guys have a podcast?
We do not.
We do not. No.
Why not?
Mike's just too cool.
I'm too cool. Honestly, if anything, it's probably a time thing. I mean, we all. I have a son. I mean, we're all. We have our lives going on, and we work different schedules too. So honestly, it's probably a time thing more than anything.
Well, I was gonna say I would love to, Paul. If you can get your demonologist friend, I was gonna say I'd love to get you guys all together, but I also didn't want to rob you guys of an episode. Fuck, if you don't have a podcast, I don't give a shit. Let's do it here then.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just don't want to
we can do that.
I didn't want to poach it, but all right, yeah.
So, Paul, I was just about to ask. I forgot what I was about to ask. I lost my train of thought.
Damn it!
We've all been there. Wait till you're my age.
Oh no, you know what? It was actually a comment. I was just gonna laugh because the reason, Tommy was excited was because literally 2 minutes before you came on, we were talking about the Conjuring House and Lorraine and Ed Warren and the book The Demonologist. And
no kidding.
Yeah, it's a funny coincidence. Yeah,
it really is. It really is. So, in a way, I'm looking forward to it. More, it's my wife's desire to go see this house than mine, but I will drag along with my crucifix.
Absolutely. Absolutely, you have to. I mean, I'm not going to go, but you definitely need to. I'm going to stay here. But so what we were talking about with The Conjuring, and by the way, Steve, Mike, when I said earlier you'd go for another half hour, we can go as long as we want. I don't want to keep you.
Yeah, I have no schedule, so wherever it takes us.
Gucci. So we were talking about The Conjuring, and in the clip that I saw, because I refused to watch the whole movie, is they talk about how don't laugh at me, Paul, is how it latches on. It doesn't matter if you leave, it latches on to you, right? That being said, Paul, why are you going?
Well, my belief system is that these things, 99.9% of the time, are not demons at all.
Sure.
There's a variety of psychiatric problems. There's hoaxes. I think there are situations where the human mind can manifest things that we don't know that it can.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. But there's that 0.1%, maybe, where it really is a demon, that doesn't interest me so much. I don't think I want to be involved in that, but I don't necessarily think this is a real thing. That Annalise Michel is an example of one of those tenth of 1% that I think was real.
Yeah.
I can't sit through listening to the transcripts of that exorcism. The hair on my arm stands up, and I don't know what you guys think about that case, but I'd sure love to hear what you think.
The photos of her right before she passed are just so. I can't even look at them without getting like the shivers, because it's just such a traumatic thing to imagine someone going through that.
Sure.
And I know she kind of felt like she was bearing a burden, for us, because she was so religious, but
very Catholic opinion.
Yes, and it's sad to see that her teeth were gone. She was emaciated.
And has there ever been anything similar to that where they could maybe point to like this is a hyper rare disease, but there's not, is there?
I want to say that there's some cases of that.
But I mean, like in general, like on not just that, like teeth disappear or withering away, but it's like speaking in a baritone voice as she like rants about like demonic Greek.
Oh, in Latin,
Latin,
Chinese, and Aramaic.
What the fuck?
And all these other languages she's spoken. Oh,
what the fuck?
No, thank you.
And it's scary too, because I mean, most of the time, right, with demonic cases, there's an invitation somewhere, right? So you wonder where hers was.
What do you mean?
Usually, it's someone that's attempting to make contact with something, and especially in the Demonologist, there's a common thread of an invitation starts with something paranormal and innocent, but it opens a doorway, usually with a Ouija board, to summon something that's not innocent.
Right. I don't want a Ouija board anywhere near me. I don't know about you guys.
I haven't worn this cross in probably a solid 16 years, but just
feel the need.
Just feel the need, not for speed, but to keep demons away from me. But
what's interesting too is every culture had like an aspect of demons. The Hindus had aspects of it. The Native American indigenous. My fiance's family is 100% indigenous on her father's side, and they've explained the Six Nation things as far as their belief systems and the stuff that is on the reservation. It's scary stuff, but what always makes you think is like, okay, if something's not Catholic, how does an exorcism through the Catholic Church work? Or how does a Native American or indigenous ritual work to clear? And so there's got to be something that's cross-cultural, that is a common thread with all of those things and all of those belief systems that is able to expel or push away these negative entities.
Yeah, right. It's almost like I remember Joe Rogan said it best. He was like, why MMA is so popular now? And he's like, because if you grow up watching football and someone else grows up watching cricket, to you, a foot stepping over a line might be, oh shit, but someone who's never watched that sport would be like, what happened? Versus MMA, when someone just cleans someone else with knuckles to the forehead, that's cross-cultural. That's like, oh man, he just got knocked the fuck out. It's probably, it seems like, I feel like that's what you're getting at, is like, yeah, Catholic, Baptist, or Buddhist, or Muslim, or whatever, Native American, it kind of seems like it's like a general evil that's met with like a general, I don't know, like good or like rebuke or like, yeah.
And it goes back to magnetism, things like that, like, I don't think it's magnetism, but you have the two opposite ends, like,
yeah,
there's got to be something to cancel something out, and it's got to be the thread to be there.
Fuck around, find out. You guys are fucked. I'm ready now.
The King Tut hood will keep them away.
Yeah, King Tut might have been into them, actually. I might be conjuring them through, as I'm wearing like an Antichrist portal on my shirt. Like my eyes are going to flip back. And, but like, but yeah, it does seem like there has to be like a choice between good and evil, like freedom to choose. Like maybe going really big on Elon Musk with simulation theory, or in the idea in Hinduism and Buddhism, Leela, the play, We are here to just learn lessons and here to, really just play. We are God, and we have an infinite amount of time, so we're just playing. The idea is that there are demons and there are angels, and the thing is like kind of to make the play more interesting, but it's also like, yeah, freedom. Like if you, if you want to ask demons will come and try to fuck with your free will, and you can let them in. You can be like, screw, it's kind of the whole sell your soul to the devil so you can be Elvis, versus like the good. It's harder to have come in. It takes more time, right? It's like working out instead of using steroids. But if you put in the effort, you can kind of do it more. Or I guess it takes time. Mm-hmm. Versus like a demon might be, again, kind of like that proxy war, right? It's the CIA coming in and giving you some guns. Like, you better think twice. But it's like, hey, we're just taking guns from the CIA. It's like, dude, you are making a deal with the CIA. Like, you better know like what you're getting into. It might be that, right?
It's an interesting concept. And I'm working on a fiction series. It's like a dark fantasy that takes place in contemporary times. And the villain, it's theological based, and the villain is a second in command for the devil. And that's a theme that he explores and he talks about, is that human nature is to destroy, and to forgive takes effort.
Yes.
And to, so he likes to play to that. Like, why are you even giving effort? Like, just go with it. Go with what you were designed to do.
To destroy.
Yeah.
Man, if that's not like, maybe this is just a fancier manifestation of entropy or enthalpy, right? The universe goes to a state of disorder. That is the base of everything. We can break it down into biology and quasars and quarks and all that shit, tectonic plates and whales. But ultimately, everything at the very core, what it is it's a state of order going to a state of disorder. That's what's happening in the universe, right? You stack up a bunch of blocks, you clean your room always just gets dirty. It doesn't just get clean, right? You can drop no one ever just dropped glass together and accidentally built a cup. It's you drop a cup and you destroy it and there's glass everywhere. Maybe this is just we call it demons, but really it's just like a fancy way to drive entropy forward, to destroy. Maybe it really does just obey the laws of thermodynamics. That's all it is they're facilitating destruction. I don't know.
But then where do they come from?
I have no idea. Paul, don't ask me the big questions. don't put me on a spot like that.
I thought you were on such a good roll. I was curious as to where it was going to play out.
Nope. You just kicked me in the nuts. You just stole my thunder. But
I think we could get there, though. I think we could not to that reality. I think that reality's someplace we can't go. But I think identifying the trends and analysis of people that experience and investigators that experience paranormal phenomena, documenting it, see what those environmental conditions are to catch that storm, that tornado, and then being able to define it can help answer what that paranormal reality looks like. What are the rules in physics that define it?
Quantum physics, I think, have the answers.
Yeah, that's what we got into earlier. Yeah, it seems like, right, that's where all the contradictions flow together, right? Do you think it could be something like, I don't know, I'm thinking of like Victorian era, like scuba diving, those massive metal suits, and you're going down there, and it's like, you're probably going to die, but then again, it's like the Victorian era. It's like, dude, you're going to die anyway. It's just like, you cut yourself and you're just going to be dead of an infection in a week. But you sort of go into that area, or Buzz Aldrin, right? Walking on the moon, getting that data. Is there a way that you'd have to get someone like yourself researching this? Is there a way that you can sort of put the scuba suit on and like, what do? Do you start asking for demonic intervention and you're like recording it, or is that a slippery slope? Does it start to take you over and you're like, fuck it, I'm going to be a portal for the Antichrist, and it's like, then we're fucked?
I think we're wearing the scuba suit already, and that's part of the journey, is that we are more than the sum of our parts.
What's that noise? I
don't know what noise.
Do you not hear
like? It sounded like birds chirping.
Yeah,
like interference somewhere.
I swear to God, if you guys were bringing demons into my podcast, I swear.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You don't hear that?
There's like an interference, yeah. It's something in the wireless.
Paul,
it happens on our wireless cameras when we set it up sometimes. So
something Steve carries with him.
I swear, if you're bringing this into my life, I swear to God, I will be the definition of haunting to you in the afterlife.
Working the Ouija board right now.
Yeah. Damn it, Paul. Do you think that, right? Because I've had on Mitzi Perdue and I've had on Christy Wells, who both are pioneering anti-human trafficking nonprofits and like real like raise hundreds of millions of dollars. Like they're like biggest in the nation. Like they're legitimate movements. And to say that is so it's not just some like Alex Jones rabbit hole. It's these people talking about. I mean, they talk about the people that go in, the customers, to have sex with toddlers. They say like a drug, they have higher and higher tolerance. It's kind of like what we joked about earlier with conspiracies, right? You start with JFK, but then eventually you're like, I need like the reptilian lizards that are ruling the White House, right? But like a drug, I mean, it starts with just like child pornography, like watching, and then like witnessing, and then taking part. But they say it keeps going and going and going to the point where there is like satanic ritual abuse. There is putting them in cages and lighting them on fire. There are paying men to literally rape them to death or to kill them. And this is how these people get off, and they have the money to do it, and they have the wherewithal. Could that be? I mean, is that a manifestation of like demonism? Like, what else would a demon be? Like, is that where it comes from? If that's where you get off, is it slipping through this world in the form of, I mean, abusing toddlers?
No, I think personal responsibility, on those people. I like
that answer. Fuck them. Fuck
it would
them.
be easy for them to say it's a demon and take the blame off themselves.
Right.
But it's 100% themselves. Like you said yourself, we all have a choice, right?
Yeah.
We have a choice.
Yeah.
I don't think those
that.
influences push.
I would tend to agree with that.
I like that, right? Because it's like trying to plead insanity, and it's like, no, you're just a pedophile.
Now, I think the Annalise scenario is more likely, like if something is attached to someone, it almost degrades them, and feeds off them until it's like, I think a parasite really is just the best
perfect
analogy, like those bugs that just latch on and just eventually kill and just become whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I think that's the more likely scenario. It's, or are those people when they die, are those some of the dark entities in the paranormal reality? The sex traffickers, the people that have those.
Okay.
I don't think they're demons, but I think there are dark things in there that probably were human at once that are just as dangerous as something that never was human. Like,
yeah, that's fair.
When we say demon, I think something that was never human.
Sure. Okay. So
like this, I don't know if this was human or like this picture. We still got it up, and it's been staring at us for 20 minutes.
Why would you do that? I opened and closed it
because I don't want to sleep tonight. That's why.
All right, I respect the honesty. Big dick energy. Fuck it, I'm staying up tonight. Yeah.
But does it want to be human? Or
that's the thing. Is so why does it take on our form if it wasn't that? Is it an imposter? Is it disguising?
Those are the questions that would keep us up and keep us going,
Well, how else do they interact with the world?
Sure. You gotta come
right, the world that we're in, which is full of humans. No, that's a very good point.
Yeah, right? Because if you came on with cloven feet and you're 12 feet tall with horns and breathing fire, like, no one's gonna mess with that. They're gonna be like, no. But if you come on in the form of a person, maybe you'd be willing to talk. Right? How else would isn't the devil supposed to be like sexy? Isn't the devil supposed to be like super seductive?
Does he want to be human? Is that what it wants?
Yeah.
Does it want that seed of destruction?
Paul, is that your dog?
It's my wife's dog.
I thought you were just gonna say it's my wife, and then I thought you were gonna end there.
I was like,
no.
Paul's trying to sleep on the couch tonight. Let's you guys good for like another 10 minutes?
Yeah.
And then we can definitely do it. We can definitely do another one because I definitely have more questions than this.
Yeah, absolutely. We're always available.
Hell yeah. So I'm kind of leaning more towards the Parasite Hypothesis, right? Because like raping children, that seems too easy of an out. And it's like, what did you actually do to further the demon cause? Like, did you destroy anything? Did you feed off anything? And it's like, no. So it's almost kind of like follow the money. It's like follow the destruction, right? If they are here to destroy, nothing was really destroyed. It seems more like if there was a demonic inhabitation, it would be, I don't know, like terrorism, maybe, like killing hundreds of souls? Or do you mean like, so when you get to destruction, do you mean truly like not inhabiting and destroying others so much as destroying the thing it inhabits? Like
destroying the thing it inhabits. Okay. I'm trying to think of the one bug where it like latches into the body.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. It goes into the grasshopper and it makes it kill itself by drowning.
Yep.
That's not good. That's not good that those exist. But who's to say that's not a mirror of what a demon is?
Yeah. I don't know. Those are the questions I keep. And that's why, as I work through each of the blog volumes, that's what I try to pick apart a little bit by a little bit. All these paranormal things that all these groups and all these shows and all people have experienced throughout the years, there's some kernel of truth to them. What is that kernel? How do we bring it back to the science that we know? And like you said, it might take the mystery away, but for me, that's what the game is. It's not a game. It's I want that mystery away because I want to be able to explain it. So if a girl's being kept up at night because there's something in her bedroom, someone can help legitimately.
Yeah. Yeah, right. It's sort of like Joseph Lister. You're taking away like the mystery of like sickness, and it's like, no, I'm extending human lifespan. Like, fuck off. Like, get out of here with that nostalgia. Remember the good old days when we died at 30? And it's like, no, right? So it's, sure, maybe it's taken away the mysticism of, like, the demon and the black eyes and the, it moves through the night. I don't think it makes it any less interesting. I mean, shit, we're here in 2020. Clearly, germ theory still is a thing, right? With COVID. Granted, that's a virus. But, like, it doesn't make it any less impactful or mysterious. It's... Yeah. Now, and because I'm just a total pussy, I kind of do need to like ask this. What measures can you take to like stay safe? Like, do you have to invite them in, or is it like the good forces you have to invite in, but like the bad ones will come fuck with you regardless?
It's a gamble either way.
Yeah, it's. I mean, we try our best to. We're not looking. Like I've said a couple times, we're just out there to have fun and chase, seeing apparitions or things like that, and not travel to other dimensions or bring things into our world. So when we, look for a place to investigate, we do some research about it, and it's more of a, I don't want to say a lighter atmosphere because we're still dealing with the paranormal, what we believe, but it's, relatively speaking, a lighter atmosphere. We're not going to go to places that are notoriously have evil spirits, and it's, I think, something that we actively try to do because I just don't think we're just two regular guys. I don't think we're well equipped enough to try and deal with a demon. And, I believe that there are people who can help others kind of understand the paranormal, whether they're psychics. I believe psychics are real. I believe 99% of the people who say they're psychics aren't really psychics or mediums, whatever term you want to use. But I think it goes back to just the, I think just kind of the parallel, the two dimensions that you just kind of protecting ourselves. There's no real way that I think we can say, well, we'll do this and, no bad spirits will come through. We try and go in, we're respectful. When we leave, we say, whatever's here, you need to stay here. Will that protect something from latching onto us? If we truly believe, I don't know. We feel very lucky that how we've been able to do this for, close to a decade now. And it's so far worked out, but it's still the first investigation we ever went on. My wife was like, I don't care where you go. Don't bring anything home. And that was just, that's the only thing she's worried about. I mean, she doesn't want to have to deal with, you know, all of a sudden the cupboards start opening and shit like that. And, you know, that's a big fear of mine too. And nobody wants to live in a haunted house, but it's, I guess, just a gamble and a risk that we're taking anywhere we go.
I'm going to use the drug analogy that you talked about earlier. For me, the way I see it is, you know, if you invite things in, and if you engage in activities where, you know, people have gone down this path, the rock star life, and you engage in drugs that, you know, destroy people, it's probably going to go that route for you if you engage in, you know, these demonic stories, you pull out the Ouija board, you summon something, you do it, you know. But I think there's legitimate times too, and Paul, I'd like to know your thoughts on what I'm about to say is, I think there are a lot more places that have paranormal activity than we actually realize. And I think a lot of people aren't tuned into it. And I think that there are probably about, like you were saying earlier, Paul, too, there's a large percentage of things that aren't paranormal, or you were talking about demons specifically, but I think you could broader speak and say it's paranormal, right? A lot of 99.9% of things aren't, like Mike was saying too. But I think there's a lot going on that people don't hear. So you might not be safe, you know, and that analogy, it's almost like, you know, the prescription drug that you're taking legitimately that you might become hooked on, you know what I mean? There might be a legitimate means and you might not be paying attention to it, but then all of a sudden it's there. So I don't want to say if you don't use a Ouija board, nothing bad happens, because it really, there's things that could come through any which way. But if you stay away from, you know, the stuff that we know kind of through these stories and everything, then you're pretty well off.
That's a really good analogy, actually, right?
I don't certain things open the door. I agree with you. I don't think it has to be something like the Ouija board where you're consciously saying, I would like to meet a demon, but drug use, alcoholism, mental illness, things that may or may not be a conscious choice somehow weaken the barrier between us and them and allow these things to have more influence than they would normally. What all those are, I don't know. You guys would probably know better than I am. But in my experience, after 30 years of defending and prosecuting criminals, I can certainly say that certain activity that you engage in really does lower the barrier.
Yeah, kind of open gateway drugs almost, right? I like what you got at about the drug though, is I don't shoot heroin, so I'm safe. All I do is I just take my prescription Oxycontin, right? And it's like, you may still get it from a pharmacy and it may be in an orange bottle with a label and a barcode and you got it from a person with a degree. I mean, you take enough of those, your respiratory system is still going to be suppressed and you're going to die. And it's like, you might not it might not be that you are in some inversion of a church with chalk chanting Latin and like sacrificing the blood of a virgin, right? It might be that you're, I don't know, like manipulating people, right? You're gaslighting people. You're emotionally abusing people. You're being a bad parent. You're stealing, right? You're fucking with people. That could be the same invitation to evil. Is that like, I don't know.
No, I definitely understand the road you're going down there. And, you know, I mean, hopefully, you know, in 6th grade, I remember I took a milk carton from school because I was really thirsty. So hopefully that's not the case. I know.
I'm calling 911 right now. This was all a sting operation. We got him.
What town did you go to?
We got him. It's over.
But no, that's interesting because I think it kind of goes back to what you were saying with like rapists or murderers, just, you know, that kind of evil spirit and how it either manifests itself in a human or, you know, the environment around it. And, you know, maybe to Steve's point, there is a lot more of it than we actually realize. We just might not be tuned into it because maybe we're just walking to the store, so we're not paying attention to something and just things of that nature. So, you know, it's interesting to think about how prevalent it could be, not saying whether it is or it isn't, but just, you know, going back to Steve's point.
A good example, Tommy, is the dream, you know, And that happens to a lot of things, like that. A lot of people, similar situations. My sister's brother, or my fiance's brother, passed away. Maybe I think it was late May, early June, and there was a lot of things that happened with the family members, and again, that's the Native American side, between being awake, dreaming, and communications in between there. So even though they don't live in haunted houses, there's something to it, so I think it can be prevalent anywhere.
I'm gonna email you a book. There's a book, his name's Paul Rowland, I think. It's called Nazis and the Occult, and it's like an objective it's like an objective study of like Hitler and the Nazis' obsession with this stuff. Doesn't claim anything. It doesn't claim ultimately he comes to the conclusion, he's like, I don't think they were possessed. He's like, I think they were just like terrible people. I think they were white supremacists. But what he does examine is, he's like, but regardless of that, they had a genuine obsession. They had a department that was funded called the Ananurba Society, and it was all about traversing the world to find objects that may have occult power. They didn't just want to harness physical power. They also they looked at it as like a means of total war. Right.
Raiders of the Lost Ark in real life.
But really, I mean, they went to these temples in South America and Asia. Like, they actually did this shit, and it's like, they were so comically evil. Like, of course they did this. Of course they went, like, raided temples. What?
Oh, the mustache twirl? The mustache twirl.
Yeah, really. It's like it's not just enough that they have to, like, incinerate Jews. It's also like, no, we gotta go get these evil things from this, like, blood sacrifice monument. It's like, I mean, do you want to get nuked? This is how you get nuked. Is like, right? But I'm gonna email you that book. I love it. It's terrifying and I love it. But yeah,
I do have a quick question for Paul. Do you have any experiences that were really kind of defining with the paranormal? We talked about ours a little bit earlier.
I have. Coming from a Christian perspective, that kind of shaped my view of these things, and I have had some experiences. The one that's probably the most interesting for today's purposes is about 20 years ago, I was pointed to a client who had kidnapped a couple of 14-year-old girls and taken them out in the woods and ran huge butcher knives through their throats. And one of them escaped, still alive. Apparently it had missed the major arteries and veins in the neck, and she flagged down a car. So he was caught. But before I met him, there were several young women in the courtroom with T-shirts. His name was Daryl, that said, "We love Daryl." And I went to meet him. And as soon as I walked in the room, I walked in with the deputy commander of the sheriff's department. We both looked at each other. Walking in the room, the temperature dropped a good 30 degrees. And there's no way you could miss it. Every time I talked to this guy, there were those kind of things that were going on around him. And both the sheriff's commander and I backed out of there and knew that there was something we had never experienced before. And what that was and how it was connected to his torture of these young girls, I don't pretend to be an expert on, but it made me realize that there are things that are not defined by the four walls of science. There was certainly nothing wrong with the air conditioning system that could do this every time this young man was in the room, or explain why he did what he did, or why these other women followed him the way that they did. It was all a very, very sobering experience. Kind of got me interested in these kind of things, even having grown up in a Christian home and learned the Christian perspective of all this. So I think that was probably the most defining thing that happened to me personally in this area.
Wow. Powerful.
That is powerful. Yeah.
I've never heard that story.
Well, I saved it for this podcast, Tommy.
You've been on and off here for 6 months, and you're just gonna come in and blue ball me like that? Just show me you. Does our relationship mean nothing, Paul? But But that's a weird thing, right? Is the drop drop in temperature. That was with Annalise. And that's even that isn't that Dante's Inferno? The center of hell isn't fire. As you go down, as you get closer, it's like the third centermost is like you are like your bottom half of your torso is stuck in a frozen lake, and like the second centermost, like you're frozen up to your neck, and the centermost, like you're frozen over your head. You're in, but the entire thing is like you're away from the warmth of God. You're in ice, and that's what it is. That's the center of hell is ice. But that was a thing, right? With Emily Rose, wasn't that the thing? As you go in, they'd say like you could see your breath.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's a very common thing, for sure. Of course, Dante gets a lot of credit for our modern conception of hell and evil, but the Bible itself is full of discussions of these things. Jesus had a lot of interaction with demons, and you could learn a lot about them by looking at the New Testament.
Yeah. That's fucked up though, because that's kind of right. That's kind of contradictory to like what we were saying is like, you know, evil people might just be evil people, but then it's kind of like that like shitty meme you see on like Southern Girls Instagram where it's like the devil's greatest trick was convincing us he doesn't exist, but like that would be it though, right? You know, you have people laughing like these aren't demons, these are just pedophiles. Meanwhile, where else would you then blend in, right? You would blend in as one of them. Because people would be like, no, it's not a demon, this person's just evil. But Paul, there's your first-hand account of...
Yeah. That doesn't absolve that person of what he did.
No, not at all.
But that whatever it was that caused those strange manifestations, I'm sure was all in favor of it, and may have even whispered in his ear to give him the ideas to do what he did.
Yeah, no, I don't think it absolves them at all. The way I look at it is it's not like an explanation or an excuse. If they are inhabited by demons, whether they're raping children or driving butcher knives through girls' throats in the woods, whether or not they are, I mean, even if they are, I still think that you have to invite that in. Like back to what you said earlier, like the invitation. There's something, whether it's like, do you want to experience a rush unlike any orgasm, like try out murder? Like, I think you still invite that in. So it's like,
I look at it like accomplices almost.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly right.
Beautifully
said.
Exactly
right.
Paul, was there anything else in addition to just the cold temperature?
Well, there's just a very eerie feeling from him, the way he acted. He was totally detached from reality. You got a very odd vibe from him, almost otherworldly. And I really try to limit my time with him because, frankly, I didn't feel equipped to deal with it. The system isn't equipped to deal with it. You can't go to court and say, Your Honor, clearly my client's possessed by a demon. That's been tried, but it didn't work. So it was basically limited to the cold. And gosh, I got to shut that off.
What?
Sorry, guys. The cold and his kind of the way he presented himself, it seemed like he looked right through you. And there weren't any levitating objects or anything like that. But I think maybe if I had been alone at the time, something like that could have happened. But I don't think that demons are much into making a show that could ever be recorded or put on TV or things like that photograph I showed you, or the one that you were talking about, the video. That those things are really rare for a reason. And I don't think they want the world at large to believe they're around. So there's some truth to the shitty meme you were talking about.
Yeah. No,
they don't want the publicity.
Yeah. No, and I say it as a shitty meme, but you know, as life goes on, I'm starting to look at it as real, right? You can be an idiot, you can be some Kim Jong-un motherfucker and like, we will rain fire on the earth, or it's like, if you really do want to just do evil, you're not going to say a word. You're going to quietly go about your business, acquire the trigger mechanisms for a nuke, and then go pull it off. Like, that's the real evil, right? Is convincing everyone else that this isn't a thing. Don't worry about it. We're not a threat. You know, go back to your business. But Yeah.
Gacy, perfect example, Gacy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I was actually just watching this documentary on YouTube the other day of his
keep
members
talking. I'm going to go to the bathroom.
reaching out to some of the victims' families and asking for forgiveness on his behalf. His sister, his niece, his daughter. Was it his daughter? Yeah, it was, and they were. So it was really interesting because they went over the history of the trial and everything too. And I mean, I kind of already, had followed it before in a couple different podcasts I listened to about biographics on people. But it was really interesting to hear from family members what he was like and the changes that he went through.
Yeah, he was a fascinating person and a community leader. I mean, this guy was the president of the JCs. You've probably seen the famous picture of him with Rosalind Carter.
Yes. Yeah.
And which is a terrible embarrassment to the Democrats. But he was not suspected. He didn't go out saying, I'm an evil man that's doing these things. He had an image in the community, Pogo the Clown. All this that he was doing was not who he really was, but he couldn't advertise that. And to this day, we don't know who it was that helped him, but we're pretty sure he had accomplices, at least for some of his murders. So
it's crazy.
Yeah, it's terrible. I mean, just terrible. And he got what he had coming to him, I guess. But even in the prison, he had favorable treatment. I don't know if you guys have read about that, but
no, I haven't.
Yeah, he made quite a bit of money selling his art.
Yep.
And at least for an inmate anyway, he was wealthy, and he paid off guards, and they treated him very well. And even on one occasion, brought him a victim in prison, who luckily escaped. But it's really quite a story. I recommend you read up on it if you haven't, because he was uniquely evil for sure.
Right.
So, Paul, do you like? I know you said you were going to the Conjuring House in Rhode Island, hopefully in a few months. Do you go to different haunted places and check them out, or?
Just getting started with that, actually. Carl is the gentleman I told you about. He's got kind of an in with those kind of things. There's also an abandoned psychiatric hospital here that you can actually rent out for the night. And I thought, wow, what a place to explore this kind of thing. I can't imagine one that would be more of a kind of a locus of this kind of energy in a place like that. And there's other ones. There's the Eastern Pennsylvania Psychiatric Hospital and the other places like that you can go to and take this tour. And I don't know how much I'll actually do it. The Conjuring House may be it for me. It just depends on how it turns out. I don't want to feel like I did when that client of mine was changing the temperature in the room ever again. And if I get that again, that's it. I'm done.
I'm still stuck on that, Paul. That's an eerie story.
Yeah, it's not fantastic or over the top. It's just the truth. And when you hear the details of what he did, and the fact that he had other young women, like the Night Stalker almost, they were coming to court wearing these T-shirts supporting him, and he'd been released for a similar crime. He had just gotten out of jail on it, so I don't know. And I'm gonna have to follow up on him and see whatever happened to him. But I sure hope he's still in jail.
Yeah, I really hope he is. I thought there was gonna be a what's up?
I was just gonna say, like Iron Maiden says, the evil that men do lives on and on.
Yes. So if a guy named Daryl, who's about 45 now, invites you to go camping, politely decline.
It's Tommy's face.
Well, if he's willing to go kill girls, then he's willing to lie about his name. Oh no, I'm Bill. You want to go camping?
Good point.
Yeah. Fuck you, Paul.
Good point.
It's.
What was that? Did I hear your doorbell, Tommy? Was that your doorbell ringing?
I will come to where
someone there.
I will come to where you live, Paul.
Quick story for you guys. We were talking about things following.
Yeah.
So when we went to the Bergen House this past summer, It's in Bergen, New York, which is a little bit outside of Rochester. I never had anything follow me home, but I had some strange things happen the first few nights that we got back, 3 nights in a row, actually. The first night, I was in the basement. I was feeding our cats, and I have a basement door to like where our sub pump room is, and there's like a latch that you just kind of twist and I'll open it. And I hadn't been in it for weeks, right? And I'm sitting there feeding the cats, and I look up because I see it opening. Right?
Oh.
I'm like, that's weird. So my first thought is maybe I didn't latch it, and I'm like, I haven't been in there in weeks. And I'm like, okay, that's weird. But okay, there's a possible explanation. Maybe I just didn't put it as, so I kind of like forgot about it. The next night at about 3 a.m., me and my fiance both woke up out of a sleep, and she's a hard sleeper. And we heard a knock on our bedroom door. Now, we like I told you, we had cats because I was feeding the cats. Now, the cats at night at 3 a.m. are often like running around, causing mischief and all that stuff. So I'm like, it's got to be the cat. And we looked at it. She's like, the cat's never did any sounds like that before. I'm like, yeah, it's got to be the cat. Let's just chalk it up to the cat. The next night, I heard someone knock on my front door, and the dogs got up. They lift their heads, just like anyone knocks, and I go there. There's nobody there. So I reached out to one of my psychic friends. She's come on a couple of investigations with us. She owns Greystone Manor. Her name is Heather Madison. Greystone has some great activity going on there. We checked it out a couple of times. And so we did some stage stuff, and it stopped after that, but it was strange. It was those 3 nights in a row, knocks, right, or door related, and it was right after we came back from the Bergen house.
You never told me.
I did. Yes, I did.
No, thank you.
So what do you think that is, though, right? I mean, obviously we're doing an episode about the paranormal. I don't mean that. I mean, like, but it's almost like, right? It's not there to kill you. It almost seems like it's there to just like, right?
Because it's bored?
Yeah, bored. Maybe it's just like it's giving you a proportional response. It's like, you came to my house, I'll come to your house. And it's just like, that's it. Like, if you went in there dumping holy water everywhere, it might have showed up at your house and started like bursting pipes and like breaking shit, right?
Right. Yeah, to be honest, that situation, I don't know the reason. I don't know what was behind it. I don't know if it was all just natural things and it's just coincidence, right? Because coincidences do happen, but it was just strange that it happened in that order. Investigation, and these 3 nights, and then we sage and it stops, right? And no more of those coincidences. So I don't know what it was. I think it was just something, I think, I in one of the blogs, I do a paranormal hierarchy because I think it takes different levels of energy for different types of interactions. For that Holy Grail, that full-bodied apparition, that photo that you have, that's like a high level of energy because it happens, and you said it yourself, Paul, so infrequently to get that type of thing. But, for dowsing rod sessions to go good, it's probably about 30-35% of the time, which is, that's pretty successful most of the time. So I think those low-level things are easier for whatever's there to really communicate with us. So something simple like a tiny little latch, a knock, an audio thing, those are lower level type energy requirements on the paranormal hierarchy.
Yeah, I agree. Carl, who had been doing this for 47 years, has said that there's only been 5 or 6 times that things like that photograph have actually happened to him. And he has seen full body apparitions, but very rarely.
What the hell? Paul, you think you can get him to come on and do an episode with all of us?
Oh, sure. I'm sure he'd love to. He's a really nice guy.
Oh, I'd love to be in on that, yeah.
Hell yeah. I mean, I'm going to be here.
I mean, he'll tell you
right behind you.
Do what?
He'll tell you some pretty scary stuff that he's experienced, and the story that he has, which I won't spoil, about the most flagrant haunting he's ever seen. It'll really amaze you. I mean, it's right out of Hollywood, this stuff. But that's 5 or 6 times out of 47 years.
Right, exactly.
Exactly, yep.
That's, I don't know, man. I'm a little creeped out. Feeling a little eerie. Do you think, and this is like a really like stupid, like hacky, like like joke, like a knock joke, but is it are demons just sort of playing good cop, bad cop with like angels, and that's how they're getting you to like move towards the light? They're like, all right, hey, well, we're telling them about bliss and love and no one's golden rule. It's not working. Let's send down some demons. And now people are like, fuck this shit. Like, you know, do you think that could there be, right? What better way to learn a lesson where I can be like, hey, it's really, do you want some money? Money's good. You're like, eh. So then you lose your job and you have to go like enlist in the army and you're fighting overseas and you're like, I'm going to go back home and I'm going to get my GED, right? It's the stick versus the carrot. I don't know.
Tough love, huh?
Yeah, that's what tough love. God's like, hey, do unto others, milk and honey, welcome to the Garden of Eden, and we're all like, eh. So he's like, all right, like, go get him, Lucifer. And it's like, you know, he's kind of like the enforcer.
Well, I think we can choose. We can choose to do good or to do evil or to do neither, and the consequences of that are up to us. If you believe in free will,
yeah.
There's good and there's evil, and in my life, there's definitely been both. You can choose which way you want to follow, and I don't think God's going to interfere with the consequences of your own decisions.
Yeah, I do think there's.
Yeah, I think that's very well put.
Yeah, I think too. Like, I think for me personally, when we talk about demons or something inhuman, I think it's more of an animalistic type instinct for them. You know, it's for me. I don't think it's as theologically broad. I think it's more like they're just going to feed. They're going to do what they need to do, and that's it. That's their primal concern. A primal type drive or instinct to them. That's my opinion.
Sure. I mean, kind of like the poster behind you, right? It's Jaws. It's not. Yeah. They're not there to be like, I'm going to ruin the summer. Like, they're just eating. They're not thinking twice about it. No different than you or I look at crackers versus a chicken. It's not like I'm going to kill that chicken. I'm just like, oh, fuck yeah, chicken. Right? They might just be these beasts that are just like, right? It's all of our little legs under the water at the ocean, and they're just easy picking. They show up and they see like an Annalise or, you know, a girl in the woods, and they're just like, oh, fuck, dinner. It might just
I think in my experience, it would be that there are varying levels of intelligence and varying levels of strength and varying levels of ability to manifest, from very low to pretty high intelligence, high strength, and pretty scary creatures.
I'm not happy about that. I have to say, because there's like another like hacky joke that I'm clearly like moving into like dad jokes, and I've been trying not to say because it's just so fucking like, but like, if there was like a haunting like in the White House, what is the protocol? Because it's like
house.
Yeah.
Ayo. Yeah, there is. Yeah.
But think about it. Oh, wait, really?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, I thought that was like a political joke.
No, the Lincoln bedroom, isn't it? Or
I thought you guys were making. I thought you were making. Oh fuck. Okay. Well, I was thinking like, because what happens? You have that, and then what is the ultimate sign of like power? Is like Secret Service, all former like Delta. You know, it's like we don't bend the knee for anyone, right? Cuban Missile Crisis. They're ready to go on the island, and we're like, we will nuke the world. Like, you gotta like draw the line in the sand, and you have to draw the line with like a big dick. You gotta be like, yo, big dick energy here. If there's a demon in the White House, are they going to be like, we have to leave? Or is that like a sign of like American power where we're like, we're not leaving? But you're saying there actually is. So
it sounds more residual based on the stories that I've heard. Often told, there's a lot of foreign dignitaries that stayed in the Lincoln Room, like Paul was saying, like legitimately respected foreign dignitaries that stayed there over the course of the 20th century, and a lot of them have reported seeing Lincoln's apparition. There's several other reports too, if you look into the White House hauntings of different ghosts there, but Lincoln's the most prominent one in the bedroom. And I can't remember the name of, it was either one of the first ladies or is a queen from another country or something like that stayed in it and specifically saw him tying his boots on, sitting on the bed.
So is it?
Yeah, I would think you're right about it being residual, that some events just leave an energy signature that continues to repeat on loop over and over again, and they can't interact. There's no consciousness there, but it's like a moment frozen in time.
That's that's exactly what you were talking about in your latest blog. Steve used an analogy of a Teddy Ruxpin, and like it's a tape in its back, and it's it plays there. It has no interaction. But the interesting thing is what's pushing the button making that happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Quantum physics, I think, a spooky interaction at a distance.
Yeah.
I don't understand that well enough to give you any further explanation.
Yeah, but it does seem like, right, it's almost like a glitching character in like a video game where it's just like running into the wall and it's like you can't, you shoot right through it and you're like, well, it's just whatever. You kind of write it off. It might be that. I cannot resist these just shitty, corny jokes that are bubbling up inside of me right now. But I was thinking, like, if there was like a JFK, maybe it's only presidents that have been killed, and JFK is like specifically only in like women's like laundry rooms, and it's just he's trying to dick down everybody. But I swear I normally don't make these like cringy jokes, but they're just.
You think making those jokes is going to help protect you?
I hope so. Demons are like, yo, fuck that guy.
Worth a shot, right?
Yeah.
For like years too, the Lincoln death train was reported to have been seen by people in different towns.
What is that?
The Lincoln death train, the train that carried his body back to Springfield. It was almost like a traveling, I don't want to say like circus, but when he was being laid to rest, it went across the country. And people have reported in the early 20th century seeing this apparition of a train, Lincoln's death train, going on the train tracks on that route in specific places.
Oh, yeah.
That's insane. That's kind of like that Hey Arnold episode. I don't know if you know that. Do you remember that one where it's like you take the train?
I don't.
Oh,
I can't say I do. No.
We just missed it.
Yeah. I remember that episode used to terrify me because it was like a ghost train. It was like if you stay on to the last stop, you end up going to hell because people like tell stories about waking up and it's like sulfur, but really it's like what it turns out to be is just like a paper mill. And they're like, "Is this hell?" And he's like, "I don't think it's that bad, but you don't need to like talk shit about my office." But that's insane. So could there be like mass? So if there's like a ghost train, like I wonder if there's ever been any sightings at like Ground Zero 9/11. Like of that same.
Pretty sure there has, yeah.
Not just ghosts, but I mean even like a ghost plane or like a tower, or would you see it at like Hiroshima maybe or anything like that, where like a lot of lives were snuffed out at once?
So here is the one thing that because I go back and forth with residual hauntings, and one thing I think that is a need for a residual haunting is some sort of material where that data, I guess you could say, is memorialized, right? So for the spirit train, right, it's the tracks maybe, or the wood, the iron that connects it. For 9/11, I'd be interested to hear what happens at Fresh Kills. Fresh Kills is the landfill at Staten Island where they brought the rubble to, and the rubble was sorted through. And I think, with the buildings being gone, I think that land there probably does have some sort of capacity to memorialize the tragedy that took place there. But I'd be interested to hear any stories from Fresh Kills about where because there is a memorial where that rubble's buried. And because now it's a park, now it's a state park. Yeah. It took 20 years and they converted it to a state park. It's over in Staten Island.
Well, we sold all that. We sold all of the iron and the steel girders. We sold all that to China as like scrap metal.
Did we?
Yeah, a lot of it, if not most of it.
Yeah, I know like a lot of the concrete rubble and all that stuff.
Sure.
It's all there.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So I'd be interested to. I bet there's stories and I bet there's stuff that happens out there that people probably don't catch. I mean, it's a park. People aren't living out there.
Yep.
But if you're walking...
What about that ship that they built out of the steel girders?
Oh, yeah, there's one of them, yeah.
That's right.
They built the Navy ship, right? Yeah.
The USS Liberty.
Yeah.
I bet there's stuff. I bet if you talk to the crew, I bet there's stuff.
Yeah. That's weird. That's really weird. Man, I wonder if, like, not even trying to be, like, woke, but I mean, like, but seriously, I wonder if, like, electronics that are built by like Foxconn in China, where it's a bunch of like people like worked to death with nets outside of the window so they can't commit suicide, or like clothes stitched together by like kids in Vietnam. I wonder if there could be like any haunting with that, like material they like left their own like traumatized impression on. I don't know. I'm just like kind of pulling examples out of my head.
Right. No, it's a huge rabbit hole. I mean, and you could go down it, forever. I mean, just any sort of tragedy or thing like that you can trace its residuals or just what happened after, and you know, try and find something like that.
Fuck.
You're not sleeping tonight, are you?
No, I'm not. It's actually, I have my cross on. I am sleeping. Demons can come fuck. If demons want to inhabit me, you know what? I'm just gonna haunt them. I'm gonna be like a clingy girlfriend.
That sounds like a challenge.
Like an invitation to me.
They're gonna come on and be like, "Oh, this is fresh meat," and I'm like, never gonna leave them alone. I'm gonna be like, "It's gonna be you and me forever. We're gonna be haunted for forever. You can meet my parents." They're gonna be like, "No." I can't stop with the shitty jokes, so clearly I've been inhabited by just like a douchey middle-aged ghost. It's just like, hey, you got this story? But let's wrap this bitch up, partially because I'm kind of tired, partially because I'm a little uneasy, and don't really want to jump down this rabbit hole anymore. But
no, it's all good.
Let's definitely do another one. Paul, when... I don't want to just like throw this up and like never actually actualize it. When do you think you'd be able to do one? Can we loosely aim for like January?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think if we start getting the ball rolling now?
Yeah, I'll talk to Carl.
Do you think you could send him a text? I'll send you this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to hang out with one of my friends this weekend, so this probably won't be uploaded until like Sunday. Normally I do it day of, but just FYI, it's not going to be up till Sunday.
No, it's all good.
Has nothing to do with that being the Lord's Day and me wanting to put this up on that day instead. Right? Fuck. Do you think demons can survive nuclear weapons?
Most likely.
Most likely? Or do you think nukes really are like nukes? Like they just
pan-dimensional.
Pan-dimensional. Dude, that was it Lord Hill Norton? Who was that 5-star admiral from the UK? There's one of them that said, he was like, you know what? The reason why UFOs might have started coming 2 years after we detonated the first nuke, right? Alamogordo, New Mexico, 1945. July 1945, Alamogordo, New Mexico. July 1947, Roswell, 119 miles apart, 2 years apart. UFOs are first there. Are they coming to see the nukes? Well, this guy was like, how do we not know that nukes are doing like 10 times more damage in like a dimension we can't see?
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say.
What if like, you know, it's like we do them here and we're like, oh yeah, no, they're big. They can level a city. And they're like, every time you detonate a nuke, like you remove a galaxy in another universe. And
right, yeah.
Maybe.
So, real quick, before we go, did you guys watch the new season of Unsolved Mysteries?
No.
So there's a very interesting episode on Netflix on Unsolved Mysteries Season 2 about Fukushima and about the tsunami that came and wiped out, you know, the population of the villages over there. And the sociologists started recording stories of taxi drivers about 6 months later, often picking up people in the middle of summertime, soaking wet, asking to be driven places. They start their fare, drive them, they get there, that person's no longer in their back seat. Happened like a whole bunch of times. It's funny that it's not Bart. That's it. I can see Tommy jump there. But yeah, so they had the fare going. So the evidence there is that the taxi driver started their fare and recorded it and recorded the drive, and they get there, they turn around, and the people are gone. And it all had to do with Fukushima, you know, and it's just really interesting. You guys get an opportunity.
What the fuck? Why'd you have to throw that in? I thought I had.
Maybe the ghosts are just cheap.
Maybe Paul, shut up. Okay, now Paul is taking the court as the corny joke. So Paul, you just put the blame on you. So that's good. Yeah, maybe they're.
I did.
Yeah, maybe they're just cheap. I don't know, man. You know what? I had a couple more shitty jokes, but I'm gonna keep those bottled up. So
write them down for next time.
Yeah.
But
save them.
Yeah. Email me the link to your blog as well as y'all's pages, and I'll everyone listen. They'll be in the description and stick it in the top comment. And if you have any questions or comments, just question and comment your Jesus Christ in heaven. Comment your questions, and let's aim for a January episode. And Paul, if you would be so kind, contact your friend. And I guess we've already opened this Pandora's box, so I guess there's nothing else to do except go forward, I guess, you know. I think if you guys brought it on to me, it's now latched on to me, and it's now latched on to all my listeners, so you're all fucked with us, so join the party, and
And if anybody wants to find us, we're at the Gates Paranormal on Facebook.
Yes.
And then we also have at the Gates Paranormal, our YouTube channel. That's where you can see some of the clips of the shadow person that we're talking about running. We have a Bergen lighthouse anomaly that we caught, an 8-minute light anomaly that's really interesting in this barn and that Bergen house in Bergen, New York, where a couple people were hung in the 1800s. Yes. So, and we have a few episodes, the Wayne County Museum episode, something turns on the lights, we see a mist go up and kind of go up right when these lights go on, and a lot of cool things that we happen to catch on camera. So at the Gates Paranormal on YouTube. And then my blog's called The Paranormal Paradox, so if anybody searches it on Google, it'll pop right up and you guys can check it out.
Yeah, send me just send me like a list of the links and I'll copy and paste them and put them right in. Man, I was going to say 2013, sorry, I'm not over yet. 2013, when I interviewed at Tulane Med School, they had the hospital, and I remember seeing it as we were walking, and I was like, what in the world is that? Because it just looked like this haunted building, and they were like, oh, that was like the main hospital, but you could see like the flood line from Katrina. They're like, they had to leave it because like the flood came, shut off the generators, and it like killed a bunch of people on life support. Dude, I bet that building's haunted as fuck.
I would
not put it past.
No.
Well, this was thoroughly unsettling. I appreciate it though, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you for coming on. I know that I interrupt nonstop. I swear nonstop. I have the manners of a caveman, and well, I'm not sorry for it, so I don't know why I'm saying it. I'm not gonna.
No. This was a great conversation, and just getting into it, and it's
talking with you and Paul. Yeah, it was awesome.
This rabbit hole that we could go down, and I feel like we could just talk forever about it. So we definitely appreciate it.
Well, hell yeah, let's do a part 2 in January, and Jesus, I accept you into my heart. I can't speak for any of them, but I am a good person. Satan be gone.
Amen.
All right, my dudes. Well, you guys have a good weekend. Stay safe, everybody. Merry Christmas. God bless America. And if you're not scared about COVID and the election, just be terrified of demons, because we're all fucked. So, all right, my dudes. You guys take it easy. I will send you the link. It'll probably be on Sunday when it's up. But please do send me just an email with all the shit in it, and I will copy and paste that so I have that. And yeah,
I can do that.
Yeah, that was fun.
Awesome.
Thank you, my friends.
Sure, nice to meet you, gentlemen. I'm very sorry I was late.
Paul, that's unforgiven, and I will not forget it.
That's all right. I'm forgiven too.
I understand.
So.
Happy belated birthday, Paul. I completely forgot. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank
Happy
you.
birthday, Paul.
Happy birthday to you. All right, my friends. Till next
Thank
time.
you.
Take it easy, guys.
All right.
You have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.